Under the ink-dark sky, the coastal refuge of hidden cliffs shimmered with the promise of secrets and salvation. Nestled between rugged rock faces and wild, untamed forests, the haven was more than just a sanctuary, it was a crucible where forbidden love and ancient curses converged. Here, beneath the silver gleam of a full moon, Rhys, the formidable werewolf alpha, stood vigil over Elara, a young woman whose presence stirred the echoes of an ominous prophecy. Rhys's eyes, a deep storm gray with flecks of gold, scanned the horizon as he paced along the narrow edge of the cliff. His stance, both powerful and protective, betrayed an inner conflict that went far beyond the instincts of the wild. Tonight, like many before, he wrestled with the burden of his past, a burden that had both made him a formidable protector and a reluctant keeper of dangerous secrets. In the distance, the sound of restless waves crashing against the jagged rocks harmonized with the whispers of the wind, a natural symphony that masked the peril lurking in the shadows. In the dim light of the refuge's interior, Elara sat cross-legged on a rough-hewn wooden bench, her eyes fixed on an old, weathered journal. Its pages, yellowed by time, held scattered entries of a life marked by loss, love, and uncertainty. The journal had been passed down through generations of her family, its cryptic notes hinting at a destiny intertwined with the supernatural world. Although safe in Rhys's sanctuary, Elara's heart was heavy with questions about her past and the future that fate might have in store. The hope of finding answers was intermingled with the dread of painful revelations. "Do you believe fate can be altered, Elara?" Rhys's deep voice interrupted her reverie as he stepped into the candlelit room, his presence both reassuring and foreboding. His tone carried a blend of guarded vulnerability and authoritative command. Elara looked up, her hazel eyes reflecting both wonder and wariness. "I want to believe it, Rhys," she replied softly, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "But every page of this journal seems to echo the same warning, a destiny that I cannot escape. I don't know if I can ever see a future beyond these secrets." Rhys knelt beside her, his touch gentle yet resolute. "Then let us face these mysteries together," he promised. "My duty has always been to protect you, but perhaps in protecting you, I can also shield my own soul from a darkness that has haunted me for too long." His gaze met hers, and in that moment a silent pact was forged, a determination to challenge the destiny that the ancient writings foretold. Outside, the night deepened, and a distant howl mingled with the sound of an approaching storm. The tranquility of the refuge was suddenly pierced by the sound of hurried footsteps echoing along the stony paths. A group of hunters, fueled by a mix of superstition and greed, had traced rumors of the hidden sanctuary. Their quest was driven by a desperate desire to capture the elusive werewolf alpha, unaware that the true prey might be far more potent, the secrets that bonded Rhys and Elara. In the foyer of the refuge, Rhys's heightened senses tingled with the approaching danger. "Elara, stay here," he instructed firmly, moving towards a narrow, concealed entrance that led deeper into the labyrinthine caves. "There's something I must do." Yet, his tone betrayed not just tactical urgency, but also an anxiety about leading his uninvited guests away from the one person who had become his heart's solace. Elara's eyes followed him, filled with both concern and silent admiration for the alpha's unwavering resolve. "Please be careful," she murmured, her voice laced with worry. The rhythmic pounding of her heart resonated with the distant thunder, as if nature itself was aware of the turbulent struggle unfolding. Inside the twisting corridors of the caves, Rhys moved with a spectral grace. Shadows danced upon the ancient walls, their forms shifting like memories of lives long past. It was here that the curse of the shifter lineage was most palpable, a lineage marked by constant tension between the beast within and the man who strived to retain his humanity. Every step he took was accompanied by a flood of memories, moments of betrayal by kin and allies, acts of redemption in the face of overwhelming despair, and echoes of love lost to the cruel twists of fate. Deep within the labyrinth, Rhys discovered remnants of an old shrine dedicated to a forgotten deity, a relic of a past where rituals and sacrifices to the supernatural were commonplace. In the center of the shrine lay a stone pedestal, upon which an intricately carved tablet was displayed. The markings, though worn by time, pulsated with a subtle light. Rhys knelt before it, his fingertips tracing the curves and symbols that hinted at a prophecy foretold in cryptic verse. "Curse or blessing," he whispered, as if speaking to the specter of destiny itself. The tablet's inscription promised retribution for those who strayed from their true path, and salvation for those who dared to defy fate. It was then that Rhys realized that his mission was not solely about protecting Elara from mortal threats, but also about preparing her for a destiny larger than either of them had imagined. Meanwhile, back in the relative safety of the main refuge, Ilara found herself restless. In the silence of the candlelit room, each creak of the wooden floorboards echoed her mounting anxiety. The journal lay open in front of her, its faded ink forming words that resonated with an eerie premonition. A particular line repeated in her mind: "Love is the beacon that defies the dark, but even the brightest beacon may falter when shadows converge." The metaphor haunted her, stirring doubts about the strength of her bond with Rhys, and the looming threat that could shatter their fragile haven. An unexpected rustle by the entrance jolted Ilara out of her troubled thoughts. Heart pounding, she edged towards the heavy door, half expecting to see an intruder. Instead, she encountered a young guard, his uniform incongruent with the ancient isolation of the refuge. "Miss, sir," he stammered under his breath, "there's been a disturbance near the cliffs. We've spotted strangers approaching fast." Ilara's mind raced. The tranquility of their world was unraveling, the lines between sanctuary and danger blurred by the relentless march of fate. With a steadying breath, she retreated deeper into the refuge, her thoughts returning once more to the cryptic journal and the unspoken promise she had made to confront destiny on her own terms. Rhys, having deciphered much from the shrine, made a crucial decision. He understood that the prophecy was not merely a warning but a call to action, a challenge to defy the very elements that sought to control their lives. As he retraced his path back to the refuge, the murmurs of the encroaching hunters grew louder, each step echoing the inexorable pull of destiny. The duality of his nature, torn between a fierce, untamed beast and the man who longed for redemption, strained him to the very core. As Rhys emerged from the hidden corridors, he quickly assessed the situation. Shadows moved with a coordinated precision outside the refuge, and the determined faces of the hunters glared with misguided resolve. Their voices carried accusations of abomination and heresy, a cacophony of misguided fear that threatened the sanctuary's fragile peace. He took a deep breath, steadied his resolve, and stepped into the fray of imminent conflict. "Leave now." Rhys's voice boomed across the entrance, filled with an authority that left no room for negotiation. His stance was both a physical and spiritual shield, one that concealed the vulnerabilities beneath his hardened exterior. The hunters hesitated, their movements faltering in the face of an alpha who exuded both ancient power and the sorrow of many battles fought in silence. A tense standoff ensued. The crisp night air vibrated with unspoken challenges and the heavy weight of centuries-old grudges. In the midst of the confrontation, a sharp, clarion call rang out from the darkness, a sound that signified both an omen and a turning point. It was as if nature itself raised a warning, echoing the call of distant ancestors who had once guarded sacred knowledge with their lives. Rhys's eyes narrowed as he met the gaze of their self-appointed leader, a man whose scarred features and feverish eyes betrayed a fanaticism born out of ancient superstitions. "You have no right to trespass in a place of refuge," Rhys declared, every word charged with the urgency of his convictions. The leader sneered, his response laced with bitterness. "And who are you to dictate sanctity? You hide behind these cliffs like a murderer in the night." Before the tension could escalate further into violence, a new development captured everyone's attention. Hidden in the shadows, Ilara had followed the commotion, her resolve stronger than her fear, and stood at the threshold of the fray. Her eyes, reflecting both defiance and sorrow, locked onto Rhys. In that fleeting moment, time seemed to slow, as if the very fabric of the universe awaited the outcome of their silent exchange. "Rhys," she called out, her voice steady despite the tumult, "if we do not face our destiny head-on, who will protect us from the darkness that threatens to consume us all?" Her words resonated deeply with Rhys, renewing his determination. The moment of confrontation was rapidly evolving into something more significant than a simple clash of wills. It was the fulcrum upon which their intertwined fates would pivot. The tension was palpable. The future, shrouded in both promise and peril, beckoned them to step beyond the threshold of the familiar. As the hunters wavered, caught in the uncertainty of confronting not merely a beast but an alpha burdened by centuries of mystique and pain, Rhys made his choice. "We must embrace the unknown," he declared, his tone both a command and a plea for understanding. "My destiny, your destiny, our destiny, demands that we shatter the chains of fate. I will no longer live in fear of what lies ahead." The confrontation, marked by charged dialogue and the raw intensity of souls laid bare, reached a crescendo as the first light of dawn began to threaten the horizon. The moment was both an ending and a beginning, a fragile balance maintained on the edge of a new era. Rhys and Ilara exchanged a look, one that spoke of shared burdens, unyielding loyalty, and the glimmer of hope that burned even in the deepest night. In that trembling pause, as the echoes of ancient prophecies reverberated against stone walls and wild winds, a shadow of uncertainty passed over the sanctuary. The ancient journal clutched in Alara's trembling hands whispered untold secrets, and the stone tablet that Rhys had discovered pulsed with an enigmatic light. The night's revelations were merely the prelude to the onslaught of truths that would soon emerge, a storm of betrayal, redemption, and love that would irrevocably alter the course of their lives. With hearts intertwined and destinies shrouded in darkness and light, both Rhys and Alara braced themselves for what was to come. In that charged instant, as the hunters hesitated and the first rays of a reluctant morning began to seep through, the hidden prophecy stepped into the forefront of their existence. The delicate balance between hope and despair teetered on the edge of oblivion, demanding that they choose between the solace of familiarity and the peril of the unknown. In the immediate aftermath of the hunters' retreat, the sanctuary was draped in a thick cloak of uncertainty. Dawn's tentative light filtered through jagged windows of the cavern, infusing every hidden crevice with an otherworldly glow. The refuge, still echoing the tension of the previous night, now hummed with a mixture of relief and anxiety. Rhys and Alara, both grappling with the weight of what had transpired, found themselves on the precipice of the unknown, each moment resonating as a prelude to further revelations. After the chaotic confrontation, Rhys retreated into the private inner chambers of the refuge to tend to his wounds, physical marks that mirrored ancient scars of betrayal. Leaning against a rough-hewn wall, he allowed the cool interior to soothe his burning skin while memories of past conflicts surfaced unbidden. Behind closed eyes, he recalled the faces of those lost and the promises broken under the banner of accursed fate. Yet even amidst the lingering pain, there was an underlying certainty that their battle was far from over. He knew that the arrival of the hunters was not a random act of fate but rather the first ripple in a tidal wave of secrets long buried. Meanwhile, Alara sought refuge in the ancient garden that lay hidden behind the main dwelling. Overgrown with wild ivy and fragrant night-blooming flowers, the garden was a sanctuary within a sanctuary. The air was rich with the scent of earth and blooming secrets, and it provided her with a rare moment of solitude. Sitting on a weathered stone bench under a towering oak, she slowly unfurled the fragile pages of her family's journal once more. Each line of ink served as both a reminder of her legacy and a cryptic invitation to uncover the hidden truth behind her own existence. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of an old caretaker, a man whose silver hair and deep-set eyes carried the weight of many winters. "You have returned to the place where roots run deep," he murmured in a resonant baritone. "There is wisdom in these walls that even time has not eroded." His voice was both warm and melancholic, stirring within her a sense of familiarity that transcended the present. Alara regarded him with cautious curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked softly, yet her tone conveyed a mixture of hope and apprehension. The caretaker's eyes, glistening with shared memories, crinkled into a gentle smile as he responded, "I am Leland, entrusted by those who came before us to guard the secrets of this refuge. In time, you will understand that every scar, every whisper in these halls, is a piece of the puzzle that binds our fate." Leland led her through a labyrinth of ancient stone paths, each step echoing with stories of past generations. They arrived at a secluded clearing where an archaic stone altar stood in silent testimony to lost rituals. "This altar," Leland explained, "was once the heart of communion for our kind. It is said that when the moon is at its apex, the veil between destiny and free will is at its thinnest. There one may speak truth into existence." The implications of his words churned within Alara, a clarion call for both hope and impending challenge. Unbeknownst to them, Rhys was not far behind. Torn between the duty of protection and the growing need to unearth deeper truths, he had sensed Leland's subtle magic and felt compelled to observe. Hidden amongst the shadows of a venerable archway, his amber eyes carefully tracked the interaction between Alara and Leland. The tenderness in Leland's voice, tempered by an air of ancient sorrow, struck a chord in Rhys's battle-scarred soul. A part of him longed to trust this caretaker, to allow the wisdom of the ages to mend the fractures within him, but the memory of previous treacheries made every alliance a tentative gamble. "Are you certain that what lies beneath these stones, these secrets, will not doom us all?" Rhys's internal question reverberated amid the silence that followed the caretaker's words. Conflicted emotions surged within him, loyalty to the promise he had made to protect Alara, and a desperate longing to understand the origins of his own cursed legacy. His mind wandered back to the stone tablet found in the labyrinth, a symbol of prophecy whose mysterious inscription promised both redemption and peril. That object, with its glowing cryptic runes, lingered in his thoughts like a recurring specter. As the first true light of day bathed the garden in warm hues of gold and amber, Leland motioned for Elara to approach the altar. "Here let your heart speak," he urged. "Share your truth with the ancient spirits so that they may guide you on this darkened path." Steeling herself, Elara knelt before the time-worn altar. Her voice, at first timid and uncertain, grew stronger with every word as she recounted the fragments of her life, the promise of protection that Rhys had made, the agonizing mysteries embedded in her family's past, and her own growing conviction that love was both her shield and her key to unlocking destiny. In that charged moment, a palpable energy began to circulate around the altar. The symbols carved into the stone seemed to glow faintly as if resonating with her confession. Leland's eyes shone with quiet approval. "The spirits hear you, child of fate," he intoned solemnly. "What is hidden in the darkness of your heritage shall soon be revealed, but be warned, with every revelation comes the demand for sacrifice." His words cast a long shadow across the clearing, intertwining her heartfelt revelations with a forewarning that sent a tremor down her spine. At that very moment, a clamor erupted near the entrance of the refuge. A frantic shuffling of feet and a chorus of distant voices unmistakably signaled trouble. Rhys, now torn between remaining an unseen guardian and stepping forward to confront the inevitable confrontation, felt the dual pull of his role as protector and the lure of forbidden knowledge. Against the backdrop of the awakening day, he emerged from the shadows with a determined stride, his presence commanding and resolute. "Elara, we must prepare," he declared, his voice a blend of urgency and unwavering resolve. "The hunters will not be deterred, and I fear they have joined forces with a darker faction, one that seeks to harness the power bound within these secrets." Elara's eyes, still glimmering with the residual power of the altar's blessing, met his with a blend of defiant bravery and palpable vulnerability. "What have we truly become, Rhys?" she asked, her tone a mixture of sorrow and fierce determination. "For all our efforts to hide and protect, the weight of our destinies clutches at our heels. How can love flourish when legacy and betrayal dog every step?" Her words hung in the air, laden with a poignant truth. Rhys understood that their internal struggle was not merely about survival, but about forging a future from the remnants of a turbulent past. "I do not know," he admitted, his voice softening with regret and resolve. "But I have learned that even in the midst of our darkest adversities, there is a spark, a chance to redefine what destiny has written for us. We must find strength not only in our shared love but in the knowledge that redemption may lie beyond the pain." As the echoes of their exchange subsided, the reverberations of approaching danger grew louder, a sign that time was swiftly slipping away. Huddled in a makeshift strategy room carved from ancient stone, Rhys, Elara, and Leland convened to form a plan of action. Maps, age-old manuscripts, and cryptic symbols littered the wooden table as they pored over every detail, each piece of the puzzle hinting at a tapestry of betrayal that spanned generations. Their conversation oscillated rapidly between hushed strategies and fervent declarations of hope, each word affirming their unwillingness to succumb to a fate preordained by hidden forces. "We must secure the hidden passages," Rhys instructed, his tone measured yet authoritative. "If we can outmaneuver the hunters and their mysterious allies, we may have a chance not just to survive, but to reclaim what was lost." His fingers traced a series of intricate lines across a faded map, routes carved through both natural caverns and abandoned urban passageways that hinted at forgotten relics of power. The air in the room vibrated with an urgent energy, as if every ancient stone and whispered memory was rallying behind their determination. Leland interjected softly, "There is more to these trails than mere escape. They are imbued with the legacy of our ancestors, who dared to defy the very fates thrust upon them. Our journey, while perilous, might also reveal the truths that bind us, and offer the chance for absolution from past misdeeds." His calm, measured voice served as an anchor amidst the whirlwind of raw emotion that threatened to overwhelm them. Elara, emboldened by the newfound unity among them, spoke with a clarity that resonated with the determination of a woman accepting her destiny. "I refuse to be merely a pawn in a prophecy that has condemned my bloodline. I will not allow our secrets to be used against us, nor will I let them define who I am." Her declaration carried with it the force of an impending revolution, one that promised to upend long-held beliefs and rebuild a future steeped in truth rather than fear. Outside, the rhythmic pulse of approaching footsteps signaled that the delicate window of opportunity was shrinking rapidly. The trio swiftly gathered what few precious artifacts they possessed: a weathered journal, the stone tablet etched with elusive runes, and a protective amulet passed down through the ages. The weight of these relics was more than tangible. They were emblems of a lineage replete with both shame and honor, intimately entwined in the fabric of the prophecy. As Reese led them along a secret passage hidden behind an ancient tapestry in the main hall, he couldn't help but reflect on the personal cost of his chosen path. Every step forward was a defiance of the destiny that had long cast a shadow over his existence. In that dim corridor, the flickering light of torches danced upon rough walls, creating ephemeral murals of both past glories and present sorrows. The air was heavy with anticipation, a silent, suffocating promise that the confrontation with their pursuers was inevitable. Their escape route was fraught with both physical perils and the intangible threat of an ancestral curse that lurked at the borders of every decision. Reese paused at a narrow ledge where the wind howled like a chorus of long-forgotten ghosts. In that breathless moment, he recalled a memory from his earliest days as a shifter, a time when pain and instinct were intertwined. It was that memory which had spurred him to become not only a guardian of Ilara but also a reluctant keeper of the secrets that his kin had guarded for eons. With a deep, resolute breath, he pressed onward, fueled by an inner determination that was as wild as it was fragile. The corridor opened into a vast, underground chamber, a relic of a bygone era when ancient civilizations had first sensed the stirrings of supernatural power. The chamber was lined with murals depicting epic struggles between light and darkness, each stroke of pigment a testimony to the eternal conflict between fate and free will. Ilara's eyes roamed the ancient artwork, drawing parallels between the myths carved into the walls and the reality unfolding around her. She could almost hear the silent lament of those who had perished in the battle of destiny, their voices merging with the soft echo of her own resolve. In that cavernous space, the sound of an approaching enemy echoed ominously. A group of figures, cloaked in the insignia of a secret society and armed with ancient weaponry, materialized at the entrance. Their leader, a figure shrouded in both mystery and malice, stepped forward. "You cannot hide behind these relics of the past," he intoned coldly, his voice slicing through the thick air like a blade. "The destiny of your kind has already been decided by those who rule the night. Surrender, and perhaps mercy will be granted." Reese stepped forward, his eyes blazing with a mix of defiance and sorrow. "I will never surrender what I hold dear," he replied, his tone echoing through the chamber with the weight of centuries. "Your prophecy is not my destiny, nor is it the destiny of those bound by love and honor. We are not pawns for you to manipulate." His words resonated like a battle cry, igniting the hearts of his reluctant allies. A fierce exchange ensued, marked by swift movements, clashing ideologies, and a symphony of grunts, shouts, and the crash of ancient shields meeting modern resolve. As the confrontation escalated, Reese and his companions fought not merely for their lives, but for the very soul of their heritage. Each blow struck was symbolic, a rejection of the oppressive fate that had long reigned, and a bold, defiant claim to a future forged by their own hands. In the midst of the melee, Ilara found herself face to face with the enigmatic leader. His eyes, cold and calculating, bore into hers, as if weighing the worth of the secrets she carried. "In every heart lies the capacity for both great love and unspeakable betrayal," he whispered. "The past is never truly buried, and its shadows will always rise again." Ilara's reply was a quiet but resolute declaration. "Maybe so, but today we choose to challenge that darkness. We will write our own story, even if the fates conspire to undo us. Love will be our truest legacy." Her words, imbued with unwavering determination, sent ripples of defiance through the very air. As the clash of wills and blades reached a fever pitch, an unexpected ally emerged from the darkness, a figure draped in tattered robes whose eyes glowed with the soft light of the ancient altar. This stranger, whose presence radiated both wisdom and mystique, intervened with a subtle gesture that disrupted the enemy's formation. The newcomer's mere presence was enough to sow confusion among the attackers, providing Reese and his allies with a fleeting opportunity to regroup and counterattack. In the ensuing moments of chaos, as echoes of the confrontation reverberated through the underground chamber, Reese and Ilara exchanged a look that conveyed volumes of unspoken understanding. Their connection was reinforced by the tangible realization that no matter how convoluted their destiny might be, their bond, tempered by fire, pain, and hope, was unbreakable. United by purpose, they vowed to reclaim not only their sanctuary but also the possibility of a future untainted by the sins of the past. With the tide of battle slowly beginning to turn, the enemy retreated into the labyrinthine depths of the underground passages, leaving behind a haunting silence and the lingering promise of a renewed struggle. Clutching the relics of their ancient legacy and standing amid the remnants of shattered expectations, Rhys, Ilara, and their newfound allies braced themselves for what lay ahead. Every heartbeat, every whispered word carried the certainty that the road to redemption was fraught with sacrifices, yet lit by the hope that love and courage could defy even the direst of destinies. As they navigated the narrow passageways back towards the sanctuary's core, the hush of the retreating threat was punctuated by the soft murmur of determination, a melody that promised new alliances and unveiled truths yet to be discovered. Each step forward was a testament to their resilience, an affirmation that the darkness lurking behind every corner could not extinguish the radiant spark of hope that burned within them. With quiet resolve and hearts united against fate's relentless tide, they pressed on through the uncertain corridors of destiny, daring to dream of a future where the shadows would no longer dictate their every move. In the ephemeral calm of that underground escape, as they prepared for the challenges that still loomed like specters on the horizon, Rhys silently vowed that no secret, however deeply hidden, would remain shrouded in darkness. The path ahead was uncertain, but in that uncertainty lay the promise of transformation and the undeniable truth that every ending was also the seed of a new beginning. The morning light bled into the darkened passages of the underground labyrinth as Rhys, Ilara, and their allies emerged into a vast and eerie chamber. Stalactites hung like ancient, frozen daggers from the cavern's ceiling while the remnants of previous conflicts lay scattered around. With each measured step, the air grew heavier, saturated with memories of past betrayals and the silent plea for absolution. In this unforgiving space, the truth of their intertwined fates began to take shape, and a hidden agenda long buried within their bloodlines stirred awake. Rhys's gaze shifted between the companions. The scars on his face and his guarded eyes hinted at inner demons that refused to rest. "Our escape has only deepened the mystery," he murmured, his tone low as if unwilling to disturb the solemn silence. "There's more at stake here than we imagined. The prophecy, the very essence of our curse, seems to be reaching out, demanding that we confront the past in order to reshape our future." Ilara, her resolve hardening with every word, nodded as she retraced the symbols etched on her family's journal. "My ancestors carried secrets that were meant to be hidden, locked away in silent whispers. But if our love is truly the beacon that defies this darkness, then we must delve into these secrets no matter the cost." Her hazel eyes, often soft with wonder, now burned with a fierce determination to unearth every forgotten legend tied to her lineage. Leland, the mysterious guardian of hidden truths, stepped forward with measured authority. "Legacies are not easily rewritten," he intoned. "For every act of defiance, a sacrifice must be made. The ancient ones believed that redemption is earned only when the truth is confronted head-on. And now, as destiny unfolds before you, you must decide if you are prepared to pay that price." While their voices echoed against the cold stone, an unsettling stillness descended. The cavern's shadows lengthened, coalescing around fragments of history and memories of ancestral betrayals. Rhys recalled the night when he first discovered the cursed tablet, a relic that had both burdened and empowered him. Its inscription had spoken of an inevitable reckoning, a moment when love and conflict would intertwine into one destiny-shattering decision. This moment, he realized, might finally be upon them. In a quiet corner of the chamber, Ilara found a hidden alcove lined with faded murals. Her fingertips grazed the icy wall as she deciphered the pictorial history, a vivid tapestry of passion, sacrifice, and treachery that spanned generations. Each figure in the mural seemed to whisper warnings of a love doomed to be exploited, yet destined to transcend the chains of fate. "It's as though my family's story was penned in blood and shadow," she observed softly to herself, the weight of centuries pressing down with each revelation. Her reverie was abruptly shattered by the sound of clashing steel and desperate cries echoing through the labyrinthine corridors. A new threat had emerged, a faction driven by a twisted desire to harness the supernatural powers bound within their legacy. Figures cloaked in dark robes and bearing arcane symbols advanced from the depths, their intent unmistakably sinister. The leader of this rogue faction, a man whose eyes flickered with cruel ambition, stepped into the open. "The legacy you cling to is poisoned," he spat, his voice a venomous hiss. "It is time to cast aside the illusion of free will and surrender to the design of fate." Rhys's eyes narrowed as he tightened his grip on the ancient amulet that pulsed with an inner glow, a symbol of hope passed down through his kind. "Your words are empty," he replied, his tone resonating with both sorrow and steely conviction. "Fate may write our beginnings, but it does not dictate our endings. We choose our path, not the shadows of your corrupted prophecy." His retort was met with a sneer, as the enemy leader circled them like a vulture poised for a final descent. Amid the chaotic exchange, tensions not only flared between warring factions but also simmered beneath the surface of personal alliances. Rhys suddenly sensed a familiar presence among the attackers, a face he hadn't expected to see. It was a younger shifter, one he had once trusted implicitly, now adorned in the garb of those sworn to embrace the darkness. The betrayal cut deep, a reminder that scars on the soul ran deeper than those on the skin. Why? Rhys demanded, his voice cracking with both pain and indignation, as the traitor's eyes betrayed a tumult of regret and ambition. Before the dissenter could offer an explanation, the cavern trembled, a low, resonating hum that seemed to vibrate from the very core of the earth. The unsettling sound echoed through stone and spirit alike, as if the ancient energy that dwelled beneath was awakening in response to the strife. Leland raised his hand, halting the skirmish for a breathless moment. "This is no ordinary clash," he warned. "The awakening of the old power suggests that our actions, our choices, have triggered forces that even we do not fully understand." In that breathless pause, Rhys and Elara exchanged glances fraught with unspoken words, an understanding that their personal battles were inextricably linked to a larger cosmic struggle. Elara stepped forward, her voice unwavering even as fear tried to cloud her resolve. "I refuse to let the sins of our past bind us to a fate we did not choose. If we are to stand against this tide of darkness, then we must first face our inner demons." Her declaration was both a rallying cry and a confession, a plea for redemption amidst betrayal. The accused traitor lowered his gaze, his features contorting in a mix of shame and defiance. "I sought power in a misguided attempt to break free from the chains of destiny," he confessed, his voice barely audible over the rumble of awakening energy. "But now I see that the path to true freedom lies not in forsaking our heritage but in understanding it, embracing the light that can emerge from even our darkest mistakes." The words, tender and remorseful, ignited a ripple of uncertainty among the enemy ranks. Yet the rogue leader was unmoved. "Spare me your contrition," he derided, drawing his weapon with a flourish as cold and merciless as winter's chill. "Your feigned repentance will not shield you from the consequences of your treachery." At that pivotal moment, the underground chamber erupted with renewed conflict. Steel clashed, echoes of ancient power reverberated, and every soul present seemed suspended in the balance between chaos and order. Amid the melee, the amulet on Rhys's chest began to glow with an intensity that defied the natural order, its luminescence cutting through the gloom like a shard of pure determination. Its light illuminated the faces of friend and foe alike, revealing expressions etched with hope, loss, and the collective burden of a destiny unchosen. Rhys advanced with a purposeful stride, his voice rising above the clamor. "We may be flawed and our paths marred by shadows of betrayal, but love, our love, is the catalyst for change. It is the one truth that transcends the boundaries of our cursed existence." His words, each heavy with sincerity, found a resonance in the hearts of those who had long lived in the shadow of despair. Elara, equally emboldened, added, "Let the ancient ones bear witness, we shall not be broken by the sins of our forebears. We are the architects of our future, and every step we take is a defiant act against a destiny marred by secrets and sorrow." Her voice, imbued with a clarity that silenced even the most fervent of adversaries, seemed to momentarily stanch the tide of violence. The tumultuous encounter reached a fever pitch as the rogue leader, incensed and desperate, launched himself at Leland. Their struggle was fierce and fluid, a dance of archaic rivalries and newly kindled alliances. In the scuffle, Leland's eyes met Elara's with a silent urgency, an unspoken message that some truths were worth more than life itself. At the same time, Rhys found himself locked in combat not only with external adversaries but with the internal wounds inflicted by betrayal. Every parry, every thrust was imbued with the agonizing recognition that his past mistakes might yet define the fate of all he held dear. Overhead, the ancient amulet pulsed in rhythm with the heartbeat of the earth. Its mysterious power began to weave together the disparate threads of destiny, a luminous tapestry that promised both warning and hope. As the ground trembled and cracks began to form in the chamber walls, the enemy's force recoiled in awe and fear. It was as if the very fabric of the supernatural realm had declared its own verdict against the injustice wrought by years of unchecked ambition. Then, in a moment both surreal and momentous, the traitor, still reeling from his inner conflict, sacrificed himself to shield Elara from an attack that threatened to tear her apart. His final act, driven by a profound sense of remorse and the desire for redemption, allowed Elara to break free from the grip of her own doubts. "Forgive me," he whispered, collapsing amidst a swirl of dust and fading light. His words, though brief, resonated with the immutable truth that even in betrayal there could be the seeds of atonement. Witnessing this selfless act, Rhys's spirit surged with an urgency that defied despair. With renewed vigor, he rallied his allies, his voice booming in the cavern like a declaration of war against the darkness that had too long held sway. "This day we claim our right to write our own destiny," he roared, his presence igniting a spark in every heart gathered there. "No longer shall we be shackled by the chains of ancient curses or haunted by the echoes of treachery. The truth, painful as it may be, sets us free." At that crescendo of determination, Ilara's mind reeled with the magnitude of the choice before her. The journal at her side, the echoes of familial secrets intertwining with the raw intensity of the present, she felt an overwhelming need to reconcile the tangled threads of her past with the promise of a tomorrow unburdened by regret. "Our love, our shared strength, will guide us through this tempest," she declared, her voice resolute and trembling with emotion. "Let us embrace the truth, whatever it may demand, and forge a future where redemption is not just a dream but our destiny." In the aftermath of that fierce confrontation, the chamber's atmosphere shifted once more, its oppressive darkness gradually giving way to the gentle radiance of hope. The ancient amulet's glow steadied, bathing the chamber in a soft, almost ethereal light that seemed to whisper of promises fulfilled and wounds slowly healing. Every ragged breath, every battered glance exchanged between Rhys and Ilara, testified to a bond that had been tried by fire and betrayal but remained unyielding. As the rebel forces began to retreat into the labyrinth's deeper recesses and the enemy regrouped for another assault, a sudden and ominous vibration resonated beneath their feet. The ground shuddered as if the ancient cavern itself was awakening, and from the fissures in the stone emerged a luminous mist that blanketed the chamber. It swirled around the combatants, an unearthly phenomenon that offered both a portent of renewal and the threat of an uncertain future. In that suspended moment of fragile calm, Rhys and Ilara stood together amid the rising luminescence. Their eyes met once more, words unspoken, yet laden with the promise that their intertwined fates were destined to defy every force that sought to undo them. The clandestine power of the amulet, the echoes of ancient betrayal, and the selfless acts of penance had all converged to create a fragile bridge between sorrow and hope. As the mist thickened and the rumble of the awakening cavern grew louder, each heartbeat resonated like the pulse of destiny itself. In that hallowed space of transformation, where every tear shed and every word spoken carried the weight of salvation, they sensed that the next phase of their journey was about to begin, a leap into an abyss where only the truth could redeem them. With determination surging in every fiber of their beings and the past no longer able to hold them captive, Rhys tightened his grip on Ilara's hand. The bond between them, forged in the crucible of betrayal and nurtured by unyielding hope, now shone as a beacon amid the encroaching darkness. Their future, uncertain and fraught with both danger and redemption, beckoned them to step forward into a realm where every secret revealed would pave the way for a hard-won freedom. Even as the chamber trembled and the luminous mist swirled around them, an intense, silent understanding passed between them, a recognition that the night of secrets and despair was giving way to a dawn of unforeseen possibility. Their fate, long entangled with ancient prophecies and the scars of betrayal, was about to undergo its most profound and perilous transformation yet. Beyond the trembling threshold of their hidden refuge, the dawn finally broke over the American skyline, a shimmering fusion of urban promise and wild ancient spirit. In that crisp, new light, Rhys, Ilara, and their steadfast allies emerged from the underground labyrinth, each step carrying the weight of battles past and the hope of an uncharted future. The cavern had released its eerie luminescence and violent echoes hours before, yet now the stark reality of the modern world awaited them, its horizons laden with both promise and foreboding. Rhys's amber eyes, still alight with the residual glow of the amulet, surveyed the horizon as if searching for traces of an unseen enemy. The ordeal in the hidden sanctum had stripped away many illusions. He recalled the sacrifices that had punctuated every heartbeat, sacrifices that now pulsed in the rhythm of a destiny rewritten in the language of their struggle. The secrets once shrouded in darkness were gradually unfurling into revelations that altered everything they believed about the curse that had haunted their lineage for generations. As the group gathered in a secluded clearing at the edge of the urban sprawl, a place where rusted industrial relics met lush, overgrown parks, Ilara stepped forward to address them all. Her voice, steady and unyielding, resonated with clarity. "We have fought not only for our lives, but for the truth behind our heritage," she declared. "This legacy is not a sentence of eternal damnation, but a call to reclaim our narrative." Her words, imbued with the resolve of someone who had witnessed both the beauty and despair of secrets long buried, stirred every heart present. Leland, the wise caretaker whose enigmatic guidance had shepherded them thus far, cleared his throat. "There is one final truth that must be set free," he intoned, his gaze shifting meaningfully between Rhys and Alara. "What if I told you that the curse which has tormented your kind was never a punishment, but a misunderstood blessing, a latent power intended for redemption?" His voice lowered as he continued, "The ancient tablet, the amulet, even the journal passed down through your family, contain within them the fragments of a prophecy that speaks of transcendence rather than damnation." A heavy silence fell upon the gathering as Leland produced a worn leather-bound book from beneath the folds of his tattered robe, a tome that pulsed with quiet energy and appeared to be as old as the legends surrounding it. "This grimoire," Leland explained, "belongs to a lineage of shifters who were once revered for their ability to channel the elemental forces of nature into healing rather than destruction." His eyes locked with Rhys's, daring him to believe in the possibility of a future free from the scars of betrayal. The true enemy was never fate itself, but the misinterpretation of the ancient rites. The legacy of darkness has persisted because our ancestors, caught in cycles of vengeance and regret, lost sight of what was meant to be a path of renewal. Rhys's rugged features shifted with a blend of disbelief and burgeoning hope. "Are you saying that our so-called curse might be a source of salvation, a power to heal instead of to harm?" he asked, his tone laden with a cautious optimism that was rare in his grizzled voice. Leland nodded slowly. "Yes, Rhys. There is a ritual, a final convergence of heart and heritage, that can transmute the legacy of pain into one of healing. It involves a union not only of souls but of the disparate threads of your ancestry that have been torn apart by betrayal. The symbolism is profound. When two hearts, intertwined by love, harmonize their inner light with the ancient energies, they can rewrite the destiny imposed upon them." As Leland's words sunk in, the wind itself seemed to pause, carrying with it a hush of anticipation. Alara's fingers brushed against the enigmatic amulet resting against Rhys's chest, as if seeking its hidden promise. "Then our love," she whispered, her eyes glistening with renewed determination, "is not just a battleground between fate and free will, it is the key to the change we so desperately need." In that moment, a subtle transformation began to materialize around them. The relics that had once been mere symbols of a long-feared curse now shimmered with a soft, inviting radiance. The old tablet, which Rhys had carried with him through countless battles, started to emit a gentle, pulsing light, a heartbeat of ancient power reawakened and redefined. Every murmured incantation and half-forgotten verse from the grimoire resonated like the first notes of a symphony heralding rebirth. Determined to seize this unexpected hope, Rhys and Alara, hand in hand, stepped into the center of a makeshift ritual circle that had been carefully marked out among the relics of both nature and civilization. The clearing, with its wildflowers and crumbling urban decay, became a stage where the elemental forces of earth, air, fire, and water converged, a sacred battleground for a transformation more profound than any conflict they had previously known. Rhys's deep, rumbling voice led the incantation while Alara's melodic cadence echoed in perfect harmony. Their words, saturated with emotion and centuries of pent-up longing, reached out to the spirits of nature and the echoes of their ancestors. With every syllable, the ground beneath them glowed with a warm, welcoming light. The cool breeze carried the scent of renewal, and the distant skyline pulsed with the promise of a modern world eager to embrace change. As the ritual reached its zenith, the air vibrated with anticipation. In that suspended heartbeat, the luminous mist that had once heralded conflict began to dissipate, replaced by a calm that spoke of reconciliation with the past. The ancient grimoire, still cradled by Leland, burst open to a page that none had seen before, a depiction of two figures, hands interlocked, standing before a radiant dawn. The imagery was startlingly familiar. It was a portrait of Rhys and Alara, destined not for endless strife, but for a redemption that would reconcile old wounds and spark a renaissance of hope. Suddenly, as if orchestrated by fate itself, the rogue leader, whose malevolence had driven so much of the conflict, stepped forward, his weapon lowered in reluctant surrender. His eyes, once afire with the cruelty of misinterpreted duty, now shimmered with remorse and newfound clarity. "I see it now," he murmured, his voice trembling with contrition. "I have been a pawn of misbelief, blinded by the shadows of ancient feuds. What we believed was a curse is in fact the spark of our collective rebirth." The final twist of the ritual came as the energy from the tablet and amulet coalesced into a single radiant beam of light that enveloped the entire circle. The power of that moment surged upward into the sky, an awe-inspiring display of unity between the old world and the new, the mystical and the mundane. It was as though the very stars had realigned to affirm the truth that had long been obscured by fear. The ancient curse, its malice diffused by the purity of their love and the clarity of their intent, was transmuted in an instant, a metamorphosis that transformed it from a source of sorrow into a wellspring of healing and possibility. In the midst of this transformative spectacle, Rhys and Elara felt an overwhelming clarity. Every betrayal, every drop of blood shed in the name of destiny, now coalesced into a singular truth, that the narrative of their lineage was not dictated by misfortune but by the courage to rise above it. The revelations of the past were no longer chains of restraint but stepping stones to a future reimagined, a future in which love was the catalyst for change and redemption was earned through the unity of fractured souls. In a final, breathless moment of shared transcendence, Rhys spoke with a voice that trembled with emotion and victory. "We have rewritten our legacy," he declared, his tone resonant with triumph and quiet reverence. "No longer are we defined by a curse of despair, but by the infinite strength of our love and the boldness to forge a new destiny." Elara, eyes glistening with unspoken gratitude, replied softly, "Today we stand free, not just from the bonds of our past, but from the confines of a fate we once believed unchangeable." Around them, their allies embraced this overwhelming surge of new beginning. The rogue leader bowed his head in acknowledgement of his own part in the long, torturous saga, while Leland offered a serene smile that spoke of battles finally at rest. The grimoire closed softly as if sealing a promise, and the relics, once ominous reminders of a cursed history, now lay bathed in a glow of promise and healing. The convergence of ancient power and newfound hope rippled outward, inspiring whispers among the wind and light that danced upon the leaves of the city's back alleys and towering concrete structures. Across the land, shifters and mortals alike began to sense that the old order had been irrevocably altered. The whispers became a clarion call to rebuild and reconcile, a unifying force that transcended past animosities and opened the door to a future where the darkness no longer reigned supreme. As Rhys and Elara slowly stepped away from the circle, hand in hand, the weight of generations lifted from their shoulders. They gazed into the horizon, a melding of sunrise hues and the subtle silhouettes of a city that had borne witness to both ancient secrets and modern strife. In that fleeting, perfect moment, every conflict was resolved, every betrayal transformed into a lesson, and every secret illuminated by the light of truth. The journey had been long and fraught with peril, a saga woven with threads of loss, love, and unexpected redemption. Yet the final revelation had not only shattered the chains of fate, it had set every tormented soul on a path toward healing. In the radiant glow of this new dawn, the legacy of the shifters was redefined. No longer a curse, but an enduring testament to the transformative power of love and the courage to rise beyond what once was thought inevitable. And so, amid the evolving tapestry of a modern yet timeless world, Rhys, Elara, and those who had stood by their side embraced their newly forged destiny. With hearts unburdened by the weight of old regrets and eyes fixed on the endless horizon, they stepped forward into a future brimming with promise. In every whispered breeze, every flicker of dawn, the message was unmistakable. Love, in all its complexity and resilience, was the force that had and always would triumph over darkness. As the morning unfolded into a day of infinite possibilities, a final resonant note marked the end of this long chapter. The ancient curse had been transmuted into a beacon of hope, guiding not just a single pair, but an entire lineage toward the light. The secrets, the betrayals, and the tumult of the past had served as the crucible from which a new era emerged, a legacy reimagined in the brilliance of transcendent love. With the city awakening beneath a sky of brilliant blues and soft golds, Rhys and Elara found themselves standing at the crossroads of destiny and renewal. Their eyes, still locked in a silent communion, promised that though the journey would continue, the battles of yesterday had been defeated by the power of their shared will. And in that quiet, transcendent victory, the final word of their saga resounded, a promise of rebirth and endless possibility. In the quiet after the storm of transformation, the once turbulent sanctuary embraced an unaccustomed calm as if the world itself exhaled a long-held breath. The final rays of a setting sun stretched over the urban skyline and the wild, unbridled lands beyond, merging the modern and the timeless into a single tapestry of destiny fulfilled. Rhys, Elara, and their surviving allies gathered once more in the heart of the refuge, this time not as fugitives or reluctant warriors, but as the architects of a new era, united by hearts that had withstood betrayal, ignited by love and tempered in the fires of redemption. Standing beneath the deep indigo sky, studded with the first glimmers of stars, Rhys's gaze swept across the faces of those who had fought by his side. His eyes, once darkened by the weight of ancient curses, now shone with the fierce clarity of a leader reborn. Tonight, we stand not as the remnants of a cursed lineage, but as proof that the legacy of our past may be reimagined, he declared, his voice both commanding and tender. Every syllable carried the resonance of his painful journey toward self-forgiveness, a journey that had led him to understand that betrayal and loss, no matter how bitter, could be transmuted into hope when tempered with the fire of true love. Ilara stepped forward as well, the gentleness of her smile belying the strength honed in countless battles of the heart and spirit. Our story, woven through with secrets and sacrifices, was never meant to remain one of despair, she said. Within every hidden sorrow, there lies the potential for a healing light. Tonight, we set free the ghosts of our past and embrace a future of reconciliation and possibility. Her words, like rays of dawn breaking over darkened landscapes, resonated deeply with every soul present. The circle they formed was not only a shield against the darkness that had once threatened to consume them, but also a symbolic embrace of every broken fragment that had conspired to make them who they were, each scar now serving as an emblem of their endurance, and each tear as a reminder of the power of redemption. The relics, the once ominous tablet and amulet, lay before them on a weathered stone slab. Their surfaces, once inscribed with curses and warnings, had softened under the radiant energies unleashed during the ritual. Now they pulsed like twin hearts, vibrant with the promise of healing rather than doom. Leland, his aged face illuminated by the gentle luminescence of the relics, unfurled a fragile parchment, an addendum to the ancient grimoire that none had known existed. "This is the final truth that our ancestors left behind," he intoned softly. A verse, hidden in plain sight for those brave enough to seek it. It speaks not of eternal damnation but of a covenant, a union of sacrifice and love that grants not only absolution from past transgressions, but also the strength to forge an unassailable future. His voice fell to a hushed whisper, urging all present to listen to the words echoing like a sacred promise across the clearing. The parchment bore a stirring inscription: "When two souls entwined defy the chains of fate, and let their wounds heal in the light of truth, then shall the legacy of sorrow transform into a beacon of hope and eternal renewal." As if in silent agreement with those verses, the night air shifted. The stars seemed to dance in an intricate pattern overhead, a constellation forming a symbol that mirrored the intertwining of two hearts. The ambience was electrified with the knowledge that a threshold was being crossed, one that separated the old world of grief and predestination from a realm where free will and love reigned supreme. Rhys and Ilara moved to the forefront of the circle, hands clasped firmly, their eyes locked in a vow that transcended spoken language. Around them, the allies, the once hostile figures who had known betrayal and loss, began to sing softly, their voices rising in a melodic harmony that resonated with the ancient power of nature itself. Their song was a benediction for those who had suffered, and a celebration for those who believed that even in darkness there existed a spark capable of igniting endless possibility. In a moment of breathtaking clarity, as the wind whispered secrets through the trees and the distant city lights flickered like embers of hope, Rhys spoke again. "For every act of betrayal that scarred our hearts, every secret that threatened to unmake us, we have found strength in unity. Let this night mark our passage from despair to destiny, our lives now forever intertwined by the promise of a brighter tomorrow." His voice, resounding with raw emotion, seemed to draw the very stars nearer, each one a witness to the covenant being forged below. Ilara's response was both tender and resolute. "Let us honor those who came before, whose struggles carved the path we now tread. May our love, our shared pain and triumph, be the legacy that heals generations. Tonight, we transform every wound into a lesson. Every tear becomes a seed from which tomorrow's hope shall bloom." Her declaration, echoed by the murmuring crowd, was like a pledge of allegiance to not just survival, but to the very act of living with purpose, unburdened by the weight of fate's cruelty. As the final notes of the hymn merged with the cool night air, an unexpected phenomenon began to unfold. The relics, those ancient artifacts that once held the power to doom them, emitted a soft, radiant glow that gradually intensified until it bathed the entire circle in a celestial light. The boundaries between the physical and the mystical blurred, and for one transcendent moment, time appeared to stand still. The swirling energies coalesced above them into a luminous vortex, an astral projection of every secret, every promise, and every dream that had ever passed through their veins. In that awe-inspiring instant, the rogue factions that had once waged war in the shadows found themselves silent and still, as if caught in the reverent pause of history in the making. Even the betrayer, whose life had teetered on the edge of redemption, felt the weight of absolution wash over him. Faces, once hardened by the bitterness of old wounds, softened in collective understanding. The realm of the supernatural seemed to acknowledge the triumph of love and unity over the forces of fate and division. Then, from the heart of the swirling luminescence, a voice as old as time yet filled with the compassion of endless lifetimes resonated through the clearing. "You have rewritten the narrative of your souls," it intoned, an ethereal sound that vibrated within every being present. "The threads of your lives, once tangled in despair, are now woven into a tapestry of hope and resilience. Go forth, bearers of the light, and know that in every heartbeat lies the power to heal, the strength to forgive, and the promise of eternity." The voice receded as mysteriously as it had emerged, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of unity and renewal. In that lingering silence, Rhys and Alara remained hand in hand, their eyes awash with unshed tears, tears of joy, of release, and of profound understanding. Each member of the circle stood transformed, no longer slaves to an inherited curse but as champions of their own destinies, each step forward a defiant declaration of life over predestination. In the gentle aftermath, as the celestial light gradually receded into the embrace of the starlit sky, the group began to disperse, each soul carrying the sacred covenant of that night. The urban sprawl and the wild lands beyond beckoned with the promise of new challenges and quiet moments of introspection. The legacy of ancient curses had been transmuted, replaced by the enduring bond of love and the collective courage of those who dared to dream of redemption. Rhys and Alara lingered a moment longer in the clearing, silently affirming to each other that their journey was far from over. Every battle they had faced and every secret that had haunted them now served as the foundation for an unbreakable future. A future where the past was honored, but no longer dictated the contours of their lives. Their hearts, once heavy with the burden of generations, now soared free on wings of hope, destined to soar into the infinite horizons of time. As they turned toward the path ahead, a winding trail illuminated by the soft glow of renewed purpose, a sudden, delicate smile passed between them. It was a smile of quiet victory, of unyielding faith in the beauty of life, and of a promise that transcended the confines of mortal existence. In that final, tender moment before the night gave way entirely to a new dawn, every secret unearthed, every betrayal forgiven, and every sacrifice honored whispered the timeless truth: love endures beyond all shadows. Love transcends fate. Love above all else is eternal. And so, beneath a sky endlessly vast and filled with infinite promise, the saga of Rhys, Alara, and all who dared to defy destiny reached its triumphant culmination, a resounding testament that even in the face of unspeakable darkness, the light of redemption can shine with the brilliance of eternity.